Let's unbox the Funko Pop Vinyl 2022 Summer Convention exclusive Krrsantan from the Book of Boba Fett.
Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it.
Hello there, thanks for visiting Varykino. I recently opened up the Funko Pop Vinyl New York Comic Con exclusive figure of Kylo Ren Supreme Leader, and it made me think back to some of my other convention exclusive Star Wars figures made by Funko. I love that Funko releases their convention exclusives through international markets just with a different sticker so we don't miss out, because of course it's very hard to attend those awesome conventions in the United States as often as we would like. And one of them that I really love is this Krrsantan figure that was the 2022 Summer Convention exclusive figure. Now this one is flocked, you know, that fuzzy surface texture, which is actually quite rare to find in the Star Wars lineup of Funko Pop Vinyl figures. I've seen it a lot more in other lines, say Disney. This one's really unique, and I'm kind of surprised I've held off opening it up for so long. He looks kind of dark, and I really want to check out all of the cool details. The painting on this is going to be very different because of that flocked surface texture. So you know what? After opening up a cool convention figure, I'm going to dive in and finally get this one out of the box. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, I'll take a closer look at the flocked Krrsantan figure out of the box. We'll check out all of the cool details. But first, let's take a quick look at the packaging. Of course, Funko collectors will be very familiar with the standard box shape and size for the single figures. It's iconic. It's been the same ever since the very first release. I love that. You can line them up, you can stack them. It's always the same. Of course, we get a little bit of printing differences for each different Star Wars series or film. For Book of Boba Fett, we have a green design with a little bit of sort of a yellow Tatooine printing in the interior of these design pieces. Really cool. I love that. I love the green nod to Boba Fett's armor there. We've got the black Star Wars logo. We've got a red circle here for behind the number 548. I love the preview here of Krrsantan with the teeth. We can see some of that cool armor detail. Really can't wait to see that out of the box. And of course, because this is a convention exclusive, we have a unique sticker here. For the Summer Convention Limited Edition for 2022, it is green and yellow. We can see that there. If you had this one in the United States, you would have the actual convention listed there. But this is an international version where it just says Summer instead. And of course, because we've got this unique finish, we also have the flocked sticker there on the front as well. I like that green color bar there for the name Krrsantan. We have a little bit of a preview of Krrsantan's face down here. I love those fluffy eyebrows. And of course, we also have the name in large text there and the number alongside the side window that wraps around from the front. Moving on to the back, another preview there of the figure. We can kind of see a little bit more this time, a little bit cut off down the side, and we can see some of the other single figures from the Book of Boba Fett line, namely Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. I still think there should be more from this series. I love the Book of Boba Fett. I want more. I always want more Star Wars stuff. I think it would be really fun to see this continuing on. And of course, we can see the logo up there, the Star Wars logo. We've got the number again on that red circle. And I really like the Tatooine printing here. We get a little bit of a glimpse of Boba Fett's palace. Of course, that used to be Jabba's palace there. We've got the twin suns just faintly there in the background as well. I really like the colors here. We can see that Tatooine scene a little bit better here on the side panel. I love the side panel. If I'm displaying my figures out of the box, I like showing this one because it's got a really nice head to toe print here of the actual full design, so we can sort of see some of those details there in the image. Of course, we've got that same green color coming in here with the border. We've got that red circle again there for the number, and you can really see that cool Tatooine scene printed there. And again, the twin suns. A little bit of just that face preview there with those fluffy eyebrows, and of course the iconic Pop Vinyl logo there on the top. Of course, just the undersides, the barcode and everything. Really cool. Love the colors on this one. But of course, Krrsantan is quite dark. I don't think we can see all of the details as cool as they're going to look when they're out of the box. So it's time to finally open them up. As always, I'm going to try and carefully open this one up from the underside. Just going to lift that flap there. Okay, then we got it. We can see the plastic tray on the inside. We'll just quickly slide that one out. And I just want to take a quick look at the preview little sleeve here in the back. We can see we've got one of Boba Fett's logos there on the green. Really quite a strong green color. I really like that. So now we can finally see Krrsantan out of the box. Okay, my first real true look at this flocking. Wow. Okay. So let's clear this packaging away. I'm going to give him just a quick little dust as well, because flocking, of course, is a fiber and we tend to get just a little bit of dust here on the base. So I'll give him a quick little dust, get this packaging out of the way, and we'll go over the details. Of course, the first thing that always catches my eye when I open up a Funko Pop vinyl Star Wars figure is, of course, the Star Wars figures are bobbleheads. He really does bobble quite nicely. Sometimes the wire can be just a little bit misaligned. It's a little bit awkward, but he bobbles really nicely, which is really fun. Now, of course, I am going to be a little bit careful with his texture. There are just a few little patches where there's sort of like little bits of extra fluff. But if you've ever had flocked toys when you were young, you know that if you handle them too much, you can wear it down and they kind of get bald patches. So for this one specifically, I'm going to try not to touch them, but I will point out if there are little patches where there's just like a little bit of extra fiber. Sometimes if you're brave, you can just kind of clean that up, kind of tease it off the surface. But on the whole, he looks really, really cool. So let's go over the details. Of course, we have the iconic black base. Not all Funko Pop vinyl ranges have a base, but Star Wars does. We have this semi-tiered circular black base with a panel here at the front where we have a Star Wars logo printed in silver. Now, usually this logo is very centered in this little rectangle. On this particular one, it's very close to the bottom edge. You can see that we've got more space there at the top. When it comes to convention exclusives, however, you generally don't get too much of a choice. If I can get my hands on one, then I'm just excited to get my hands on it. I'm not too fussed about the printing on this one. Sometimes it's a little bit hidden in the box. So I'm not too worried about this one. I'm just happy that I have it. At least the printing itself is not damaged and it's straight. So I think if it had a scratch or if it was a little bit more on an angle, it would catch my eye worse than this. At least it's nice and straight and tidy. So it didn't immediately catch my attention, certainly from in the box there as well. So now we can really see this flocked texture. And I think what's really grabbing me that perhaps I didn't quite see when it was in the box is we've got some really fun differences in color. So of course we could sort of see very clearly on the box some of the really pale sections on Krrsantan's face. The contrast is a little less striking in person. We can see the dark color, kind of like a dark gray for his face, and then he's sort of got some paler highlights, namely his sort of eyebrows, sort of mustache, and a little bit of sort of a beard section here. And the contrast is less than we would appear here. It's really difference between the dark sort of body here and then the sort of pale gray of sort of the accent pieces of his face. Now here, it's less of a contrast, and I really like that. I think if it was as pale as it looked in the preview image there, it wouldn't look quite right. I can't sort of explain why. I like the fact that it's kind of a subtle just color difference there. Pale enough that it kind of stands out, but not like looking white, perhaps like the image there. We've also got some sections here. We've got black on his hands, and more of a true black compared to sort of the dark gray of his body. We can see that he's got his iconic sort of knuckle dusters there, which are painted plastic. They of course are not flocked like the other armor components, which we'll get to soon. We've also got sort of a pale grey on his feet. Now, Wookiee feet, there are certain sections that aren't fluffy per se, so I like that these sections here are painted. Now, I can't discern, I think this looks like the paint is over flocking because there's sort of like a funny sort of texture to it. You can really sort of see it on this foot here. So I feel like the whole figure was flocked and then these feet were painted over the top, which is an interesting way to do it. So we've sort of got a slightly sort of different texture there. I kind of like it. It looks a little odd when I stare at it for too long because I can sort of see, oh, that's paint over the flocking, and that sort of seems like an odd choice. But the process of flocking is complicated. It's kind of, over the whole thing, and then they've just sort of added these painted sections there because I can see the hard armor parts are sort of like glued on after the fact. You can really see that with those gold knuckle dusters. I love the gold finish here, and of course, he also has some gold armor pieces as a belt and kind of a crossed bandolier chest armor piece there. Now you can kind of see, again, he has some shoulder armor here that is painted over the flocking. It's kind of a gold flock here, or it's gold paint over the flock. It's a little bit harder to tell. And you can see here, every now and again, we just get sort of a little bit of an extra clump of those fibers there. You can see just this little clump here. Now, of course, I could go in and pull there. I'm a little bit careful about those sort of things, because if you kind of get too much attached, I might make a little hole in the flocking surface, and I don't want to sort of interrupt the integrity of that flocking. So I'm not going to pull that one off, but if you're brave, you could probably give him just like a little bit of a trim. We can also see that gold paint used to accent on his sort of long hair bits, sort of more clearly seen here in the back. We can see his sort of long braid sections, not really braids, almost sort of dreadlock sections here, which are accented with that gold. Again, we just have a tiny little sort of paint, or perhaps a little bit of extra gold flocking caught on the surface there. That's, you know, obviously we want our Funko collectibles to be sort of as painted perfectly as possible, but it's right in the back, so I'm never really going to see it once it's on display. But we just have those small little sections there that are just a little bit off the actual section where that gold detail should be. But it's so fluffy. I'm just going to touch it really, really gently, because I just want to kind of see, oh, childhood. I had this flocked rabbit figurine that I loved. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way. If you play with that a lot, you are just going to wear it down. But just the nostalgia of flocking, so awesome. So we can see that gold armor on the back here. We can see that it is hard plastic, but it's got a really nice glossy gold painted finish there. And we've got some brown details. We've got a pouch here. We can sort of see those straps, like it kind of reminds me of, you know, Chewbacca's classic bandolier, but in a sort of more of an armored fashion. Looks like we've got a sort of a pouch or something here as well. Again, painted over the flocking. That one's a little bit more abstract, because it's sort of has an almost organic shape there, but it's sort of painted in a brown. It's a little bit harder to read what that object is supposed to be, because it's flocked. My brain's like, is it a costume detail that they have painted like a pouch, or is it like a sort of section of his fur painted sort of fainter there? It's sort of an odd one. Makes me sort of go and have a look at some Krrsantan photos from the series to sort of figure out what that is. But again, we can see the other shoulder piece, which is flocked with that gold paint on the top. That one's a little bit tidier. We can just see sort of extra little tufts on the top of those sort of spikes there on his shoulder pieces. I kind of wish the shoulder armor was the same as this, you know, because it's armor. It's not his fluff sort of sculpted into gold spikes. I wish that was done in the same manner as the rest of the armor pieces, just so it didn't look fluffy. I don't think the armor, that shoulder pieces should be fluffy. So that's an interesting choice there. I don't mind it for the hair, but when we can clearly see that it is armor, it shouldn't look fluffy. So I wish that those were separate pieces glued on. I know that it's probably tricky to glue pieces on top of flocking, because if you get any strands of glue or any kind of excess spillage, it's going to sit on the surface of that fuzzy flocking, and it's really going to draw your eye. So I do understand that might be tricky, but we did get a very clean application for the armor pieces. Because we've already got this glossy armor, I think it would have been better to use that same technique, because we've got the really tiny little plastic here for his knuckle dusters, and they're sitting so close together, and we can clearly see those shoulder pieces attached with the strap here at the front and at the back. I wish that was, even though they've obviously tried to paint gold over it, it doesn't read the best there. But the detail on the actual armor pieces, I know his head's bobbling. I'm going to try and gently sort of hold him still so we can see that detail on those pieces there, with that sort of buckle on his chest and his belt buckle there as well. There is some really fantastic detail in the sculpting there, really fine detail. And we don't have those sort of plates there on the back. We've sort of got a little connective point there and that pouch there in the back. But sometimes the costume detail on Funko figures just absolutely astounds me. They're really stylized figures. I don't really hold Funko up to the same sort of fine detail detail as we would expect for, say, a Hot Toys 12-inch figure. You were expecting high quality for the price point and the, you know, the tiny little different hands and the movable eyeballs and all of that kind of stuff. So it really does impress me that they put in that fine sculpting detail. If that was just like, you know, a single sort of flat gold surface, I would probably not even really register that. I would just be looking at the cool gold armored details on this figure. So I love that that detail is there. The detail on that top sort of panel is a little bit more well defined. This one here is a little bit more sort of squiggly. I'm not really sure if that's the sculpting or the paint that's kind of made that surface detail a little softer in the way that it reads to my eyes. I really like that. Just the really defined detail there on that chest piece. But of course, the really sort of main focal point on this one is his face. I love the detail here. Those sort of eyebrows giving him that sort of stern, angry. I love the performance of him in the show, just the way he kind of does a lot of talking with just his sort of eyebrows and the way that he looks. He has this thick fur, little, you know, quite different to Chewbacca in the way that he sort of uses those expressions and things like that. And I love the fact that he's kind of snarling. We can see his mouth is open with white teeth, painted really well. We've got this sort of dark painted lip here. His bottom lip is painted there with a dark color that matches really well with the color of his flocked fur. And those white teeth, of course, we can sort of see those ones. I think that that's really fun. And we've got the iconic Funko eyes there, the black eyes, and we've even got a nose. I like the sculpted nose here, of course, very different to that tiny little sort of traditional human nose. Of course, he's got a more of a sort of I don't know what animal you more closely associate Wookiees with. Are they bears? I don't know, but I love that nose there. I think that that's really fun. So overall, I love the flocking. It's just a really fun, you know, design feature of this one, a little bit different. That's what I think convention exclusives should be all about. Not locking a whole character behind a convention exclusive, but give us a fun variation. Something that means that if you can't get your hands on it, the character itself is not locked away. So having something like a flocked version of Krrsantan is perfect. Sometimes I know Funko do like diamond glitter versions. I think those are great, or like a different colorway. Those are great ideas for convention exclusives. I love his pose. You know, he's just got his feet planted firmly here on the base. He's got his, you know, knuckles ready to go and those sort of gripped fists there. This one's a little bit more raised. He just looks, you know, imposing with just his sturdy stance there. Really fun. So I think he's really cool. I do really appreciate the flocking more out of the box because it is a dark color. Now, in saying that, I'm probably going to perhaps enjoy him out of the box for a little while and then tuck him safely away again, because once the flocking, if it starts getting dusty, it becomes very hard to get that dust off without feeling like you potentially might damage the surface on something like this, especially since it's a convention exclusive. It's not like I have two of them where I could have one in the box and one alongside them. I'm not that fortunate. That would be one option if you really want one out. But yeah, I don't want to be dusting this one lest I damage the surface there. So I'm going to enjoy him because I really do like to see the details. I don't always like to sort of, you know, be looking at my collectibles through windows. I know a lot of Funko collectors, a lot of Star Wars collectors do like to sort of treasure and keep their collectibles safe behind plastic, but I get so much enjoyment for sort of taking things out of their boxes and going through the details in these sort of unboxing process where I get to just appreciate, look at everything really close up, because there's just so much detail, like the whole back of the figure I've never seen while he's been in his box, and it's just really fun to go over the details and appreciate it. And the light really picks up on that different surface texture. The flocking just makes him so fuzzy, kind of makes him cute and sort of, you know, grumpy, and just, it's just a really fun texture there. I know that the different sort of variations like the diamond glitter or the metallic finishes and things like that aren't for every collector. Sometimes you may just want to sort of collect the standard ones that are painted to look like they are on the show. But for a character like a Wookiee, I think this is really fun. You know, it really works. It's not as, say, different as the diamond glitter ones. Those ones are definitely, you know, some collectors can take it or believe it. They're not sort of realistic in a lineup with your other figures, but a flocked one, I think this is just so fun. It's so cool. I love him. The one thing about this one that just kind of bothers me, and I don't know why I didn't really notice it while it was in the box, were those shoulder armor pieces. I think if those were painted gold, you know, hard plastic and attached after the flocking process, like the front armor was, that would just make him an almost perfect figure. I'm just a little bit, you know, now when you notice that sort of oddity, your mind fixates on it a little bit and you're like, why was that? I don't know. But otherwise, looking at his face, I think it's really cute. I know sometimes you can get sort of errors or a little bit of a patch in the flocking process that wasn't the best. This one looks really good. There's just that one tiny little spot here that kind of catches my eye. It's like a tiny dot, but I only see it under certain light because of that sort of that interesting texture there. Of course, you're going to be really careful not to drop or knock these because you can sort of gouge into the surface and scrape it off. So again, I'm just enjoying him out of the box. I'll probably have him on display like this for a while, and then I'm probably going to tuck him safely back in his box now that I got to really appreciate all of the details, because sadly I just have the one, no doubles up there, unfortunately. We are very fortunate to here in New Zealand that we do get the opportunity to buy convention exclusives with that slightly different sticker, but they are still, of course, limited in quantity. They are limited edition, so I'm very fortunate to just have this one in my collection, and I think he's so cute. I love the Book of Boba Fett. So of course, it's always really fun when we get a character from the comic books showing up in live action. I thought this one was a really fun addition to the Book of Boba Fett there. And this is a really fun addition to my lineup of Funko Pop vinyl figures from the Book of Boba Fett series. I want more. This one is so cute. I love that bubble. So this has been really fun. I've held off opening them up for a long time. I get a little nervous sometimes around those convention exclusives, but I've opened up a couple recently, so I want to sort of go back and open up some of my others that I have in my collection just to sort of really enjoy them before I, you know, tuck them back in their box for safekeeping in part of my sort of permanent display. So this has been a lot of fun. I think he looks really cute. Really happy to have this one in my collection. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars Funko figure, checked out this really cool flocking detail, and had a lot of fun finally opening them up. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again really soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you're a Funko Pop vinyl fan, I've also unboxed the Boba Fett and Fennec on the Throne deluxe scene. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as a whole Funko unboxing playlist. This is the way.